1. The grumpy mouth and the empty bowl. My human is the center of my universe, a good dispenser of treats and thrower of balls. But lately, the air in the house has been thick with the sour, metallic smell of worry. Clings to the edges of the rug, hides under the couch, and is strongest near the big, soft bed. He keeps his hand clamped over the right side of his face, making soft, deep, grating sounds that rumble in his throat. Not a happy purr, not a warning bark, just a constant, low drone of pain. I know that sound. It means everything is wrong. The routine is completely broken. The morning sun comes up and we go out to the yard, but then he just collapses back onto the couch instead of making the important, exciting sounds of car keys and leash. We miss our park walk. We miss the happy jog to the mailbox. And the worst part of the worry smell? The food situation. When my human eats, there are usually tiny, accidental gifts that fall to the floor. A crunchy cereal bit, a sweet crumb, a forgotten square of cheese. Now, his meals are sad and quiet. He only chews on one side of his mouth, slowly, as if the food itself is an enemy. The floor stays clean. My bowl is full of my good kibble, but the whole ritual of the drop and snatch is gone. The house is grumpy and the floor is empty. This is an unacceptable disruption to the food chain. I press my cold nose hard into his knee, sending him strong, concentrated thoughts. Stop being worried, human. Be happy. Give me a crumb. Fix the routine. He just sighs, ruffles my head, and smells sadder. 2. The glowing screen and the forbidden smell. The whimper sound of pain faded, replaced by the frantic tap-tap-tap of fingers on the glowing screen. Now, my human lives entirely in the light of the box. He makes excited sounds, a fast, breathless huff-huff-huff that usually mean a treat but now only mean he's found a new obsession. The human is fixated on the screen, searching for answers to the grumpy mouth. The screen is stealing his attention, stealing my playtime, stealing the now. Then came the new, terrible smells, the forbidden smells. He started dragging in heavy plastic bags filled with plants. Big, aggressive green things that smelled watery and metallic, like something wet growing in the ground. Loud, spicy things that stung my nose. He would chop them with the scary thwack 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 of the big knife, filling the air with the scent of dirt and sadness. He'd mix these wrong smells with the perfectly good chicken and beef. I whine, putting a paw on his ankle. Stop. It smells wrong. I knew that if I tried to snatch a piece of the red pepper or the shiny, flat leaves, I would only earn a sharp word. He ignored my toys. He ignored my deepest, most heartfelt whines. He just stood there, smelling faintly of anxiety and desperation, surrounded by the forbidden smells, believing the screen had the answers, even if the answers smelled terrible. But I had to admit the pain whine was gone. That was the only good sign in this mess.
Subscribe with us now and stay connected as we journey through every chapter together. Now back to our story.
3. Steak, 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 a confusing victory. One glorious morning, the kitchen air changed forever. All the forbidden smells, the leafy, watery, sad smells, disappeared entirely. They went into the big, cold box, sealed away. The human was determined. He began cooking, and the entire house was flooded with the magnificent primal scent of a glorious victory. It smelled of deep brown steak crusts, sizzling fat, crispy bacon, and slow-roasted beef. My senses swam in the rich, heavy air. My own food improved instantly. The boring brown kibble disappeared, replaced by shiny, rich, satisfying meat chunks. He told me I was his carnivore companion, and this was the experiment. It was the best game ever. The human still chewed slowly, focusing intently, but now the concentration was focused on savoring the meat, not protecting his mouth from pain. He walked with a different pace, a confident stride instead of a slow shuffle. The worry smell was replaced by the clean, powerful smell of certainty and cooked fat. The best part, small, warm, perfectly cooked pieces of beef sometimes fell or were deliberately placed right by my bowl. These were not accidental crumbs, they were trophies. If eating all this good meat fixes everything, why truly did the human wait so long? It remains a mystery. 4. The scary place smells and a good report. Today was a nervous, confusing day. We had to go to the worst smelling place again. It attacks my nose with sharp clinical disinfectant mixed with the sweat of fear from the humans who enter. The mechanical whines that come from inside are high-pitched and metallic, rattling my ears. I knew it was called the dentist, a place where good teeth go to be poked. I had to wait outside on the cold floor, listening to the muffled, terrifying sounds of the drilling and scraping. When my human finally emerged, he smelled of antiseptic and the faintest whiff of adrenaline, but overlying it all was a bright, clean smell of hope. The nice-smelling human, Dr. Chen, who has a calm, clean, crisp towel scent, was with him. Her usual peaceful aroma was complicated today, a rush of professional surprise mixed with a small, sharp scent of alarm. She kept looking at the static gray pictures of my human's mouth on her own small glowing screen. She was searching for the broken part, the failure she expected. But all she found was nothing. The human bent down, smelling clean and happy, and told me we wouldn't have to visit the worst-smelling place again for a long, long time. His body language was so relieved that I was sure he was a wagging tail pretending to be a man.
Let's stay connected. Subscribe and join me on this journey every step of the way.
5. The tall, sharp-smelling enemy. The good, clean smells of hope were short-lived. The nice-smelling human came over to our house late one evening, and she smelled strongly of fear and printed paper. She and my human talked in rapid, low-pitched whispers about Thorne and the licensing board. I understood nothing but the tension in the air. The next day, the tension arrived in physical form. A new, loud, sharp-smelling man appeared at the door. He was incredibly tall, dressed in stiff, dark fabric, and smelled entirely of synthetic Polish and aggressive authority. This was Dr. Marcus Thorne. He didn't see me. He didn't scratch me. He looked down at me and past me with eyes that were narrow and mean. He smelled like a vacuum-sealed, perfectly preserved piece of meat that was rotten on the inside. He made the nice-smelling human flinch. He waved official-smelling papers at my human, his voice booming and full of disagreement. He was the source of the new, heavy worry smell that had just entered the house. He cornered Dr. Chin, making her slump, and he kept demanding answers about the lies and the ethics. This was an intruder, a threat to my pack. I let out the deepest, roughest, most protective bark I have, a true go-away command. He didn't even twitch, forcing the human to pull me back physically. I watched that tall, sharp-smelling enemy leave, carrying the promise of bad news like a foul scent. 6 too many barks on the little box. Conflict had spread past the walls of the house. The human's glowing screen was now a source of relentless, yapping noise, not gentle conversational noise, but the sound of dozens of agitated voices arguing about my human's mouth. Clicking box, the computer, made frantic, fast noises. The human was glued to the screen, his eyes wide and fixed. He was writing, clicking, defending the meat diet and the undeniable truth of his perfectly restored teeth. He was frantic. His hands were too busy scrolling and typing to properly apply head scratches. I had to work hard just to get a brief, distracted pat. The long, satisfying afternoon walks were replaced by short, rushed trips because he had to get back to the screen. The entire house smelled constantly of stale coffee and the high-pitched hum of excitement, mixed with a growing, cold scent of impending doom. I tried interrupting with my toys, bouncing my favorite squeaky hedgehog off his knee, but he only sighed and muttered about being an accidental advocate caught in the spotlight. I knew only one truth: the screen was winning and I needed to intervene. 7. The loud knock and the missing leash. I was finally dozing by the door, trying to dream up a giant, salty bone when the world shattered. Loud, scary knocking. It was not the happy knock of the delivery human. It was a heavy, repetitive thud-thud-thud that shook the floor. Strangers with rigid, cold uniforms and a terrifyingly potent authority smell burst through the door. They were yelling about dental fraud and official papers and resistance. Their metallic, cold presence filled the hall. They moved quickly, putting my human's hands behind his back with a harsh, clicking sound. My heart pounded so hard it vibrated against my ribs. I went into full defense mode. I barked and lunged and snapped at the air, demanding they release my human, demanding they leave my house. But they smelled cold and official, and they kept moving. My human looked over his shoulder at me, his eyes wide and deep with sadness and fear, and said, "Guard the house, Gus. Be a good boy." Then they dragged him out. I ran to the door, scratching, whining, and smelling the leather of the forgotten leash hanging right there. He didn't even take his leash. I spent the most terrible night alone, pacing the house, smelling the lingering fear and the cold authority smell, waiting for the sound of his key. If she left, they stayed, I guarded. He came back. He smelled terribly of sadness and the sharp chemical odor of a public building, the jail smell. I jumped, licked every inch of his face, trying to physically rub the bad smells off him, trying to remind him what good smells were. But the house was still restless. The smelly girl, the human's girlfriend, came in, and she was the source of immediate, high-pitched chaos. She smelled of sharp panic and self-interest. She was loud and mad, her voice tight and high. She pointed at the glowing screen, yelling about the headlines and the financial risk. The argument smells were bitter and metallic, filling the space between them. She gathered her own scented belongings quickly and rushed out the door forever. My human sank onto the floor, his head in his hands, smelling of deep, wet, agonizing grief. I lay across his legs, absorbing his weight, trying to keep the grief from escaping his body. The grief was immediately interrupted. The flashy light and loud clicking strangers, reporters, arrived, crowding the lawn, their cameras flashing like mad fireflies. They were everywhere. I raced to the windows, barking until my throat was dry, defending my human from the overwhelming light and the persistent noise. I was exhausted, my human was miserable, and the house was a disaster zone, but the pack had to be guarded. I never stopped.
Subscribe with us now and stay connected as we journey through every chapter together. Now back to our story.
9. The suspended smell and the secret midnight mission. The nice-smelling human, Dr. Chen returned, but now she was full of a new, unsettling smell, despair mixed with hardened determination. Her usual crisp towel scent was gone. It was replaced by a worried, metallic sweat. She told my human that the tall, sharp-smelling enemy, Thorne, had made her stop working. Her license was suspended. Her office was closed. This was serious. She needed to do something secret now. Her car would pull up at strange, dark times. When she was inside, I had to be absolutely silent. I had to be a silent, furry shadow. One night, she came back with a heavy, square, important box. This box smelled vital, of new metal, electronics, and undeniable stored truth. She and my human looked at the pictures inside with frantic, desperate hope. I understood the mission instantly. This box was the only thing that would make the authority smell and the danger smell retreat forever. Dr. Chen needed to use it before the tall, sharp-smelling enemy could stop her. I lay under the kitchen table, guarding the box, listening to their low, strained voices, patiently waiting for the signal to move. 10. All the humans yelled, but we won the quiet. The final journey was to the enormous, terrifyingly echoing place, the courthouse. It smelled overwhelmingly of old, dry wood, crowd sweat, and extremely high anxiety. There were far too many humans yelling. The tall, sharp-smelling enemy, Thorne, was there, smelling smug and trying to use his height and his smell to overwhelm the room. The nice-smelling human, Dr. Chen, stood up. Her body was trembling, but her voice was clear and steady. She spoke, and then she showed the important box to all the people. The room went instantly, shockingly still. I could smell the truth, a cold, factual, scientific smell, pouring out of the box and into the air. The sudden silence was immense. Tension smell completely dissolved from my human, replaced by the warm, deep scent of relief and exoneration. He stood taller than he had in months. The authority smells in the room retreated, unable to sustain themselves against the truth. They couldn't yell anymore. We went home. The flashy light strangers were gone. The house was quiet and smelled only of us. My human smiled, a real, wide, relaxed smile that didn't hide anything. He ruffled my ears, praised me for guarding the house, and then he went into the kitchen. He cooked a huge, beautiful, perfectly done piece of steak just for me. He watched me eat every bite. The routine was fixed. The mouth was good. We won the quiet.